This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Good morning, everybody. It's 9:34, February 8th. We will call the February TAC meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. I know we had to reschedule this due to the winter storms. I hope everybody fared out of those all right. We will move into agenda item 2, which is opportunity for public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to comment? Is there anybody online, Anita?
Yes, there are 12 members online and nobody's calling.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along. Agenda item 3 is a staff update. This is pages 8 through 9 in your packet. I can't get caught up. I'm just going right through. All right, as you'll see on the screen and in your packet, our upcoming K-Tempo meetings are listed. Those are all at 9:30 here at the COG offices. You'll see an asterisk by the April 5th TAC meeting. That'll be an agenda item later to discuss possibly postponing that meeting. So that's why the asterisk is notated in those meetings there. Other updates, staff did attend the Texas Transportation Forum in Austin. Had some good conversation. Also, we're impacted by the weather. The 2020 census urban areas, I got that information that was sent out. We're still looking at how those numbers will impact the MPO. We're supposed to have some more conversations with TxDOT on those in the coming weeks, as we've mentioned, possibly expanding the boundaries with the new numbers, but we just don't know what that looks like financially at this point for us. The 2020 census urban areas maps, wall maps, won't actually be available until it's supposed to be January. I haven't seen them come out yet, so hopefully this month those maps will be out and we can get a better understanding of how the numbers changed in our region. We do have an administrative amendment to the MTP, which is K30-13B, Chaparral Road Phase 2. Project that was added to the unscored unfunded list. There's no action needed from the TAC or the policy board. This was just put in the MTP as a project with no funding assigned to it. Before I get to the air quality, we did receive notification that the SICCOG, K-Tempo, and Corio County Safe Streets and Roads for All grant was accepted. So in the coming months, we'll be moving forward with providing you information on that. We're right now coordinating with everybody and waiting to hear back from USDOT on further specifics and get a contract signed with them so we can move forward with the RFP process and getting a consultant in here to get that comprehensive safety plan done for the region so that we can use those in upcoming funding cycles. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be done in time for the grants that are about to open here in a few weeks or months for Safe Streets and Roads for All, but in future funding cycles, we'll have that plan available for jurisdictions to use. The last thing I have is the air quality readings. Those were 46 and 45 parts per billion, and then I will open to any questions. Any questions on staff update? Okay. Moving right along. Agenda item 4 is an action item regarding approval of the minutes from the January 11th, 2023 meeting. Those minutes are in your packet and were sent out. Are there any corrections or revisions needed to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Motion. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now, agenda item 5 is a discussion and action item regarding postponing of the April TAC meeting by 1 week to April 12th, 2023. I know this is, of course, here in a few months, but we wanted to get it on everybody's radar because the 5th of April, staff will not be available for that TAC meeting. So we are requesting that the TAC authorize us to postpone that to the following week, which would make it April 12th. Is there any questions, concerns, calendar conflicts maybe for the 12th? Any dates that possibly work better? No other questions or comments, I will entertain a motion for the postponing of the TAC meeting to April 12th. So moved. Motion,
Second.
second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Thank you. All right. Agenda item 6 is a discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of the amendments to the FY 23-26 Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, and the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the MTP, for projects D4501, which is the West Main Street Luther Curtis Road project, and H30-05B, which is the Warriors Path Phase 2 project. James.
Thanks, Ryan. So we brought this last month to start public involvement. We held our public involvement period between January 21st and February 6th. There was a public hearing at the SIGOG offices on, it says February 1st, but it should have been February 2nd. We moved it because of the winter weather last week. We had 2 attendees at the meeting. Neither of them had comments on the proposed amendments, and received no comments during the 15-day comment period. Just a reminder for the 2 projects, the West Main Street, the funding amount is decreasing by about $300,000, and the limits are decreasing by about 2.4 miles. So it's a little bit of a smaller project, but they're doing the same thing. And then Warriors Path, there was an extra action item in the original scope from a previous phase, and that was to add a 10-foot shared use path on the east side, and the city is not doing that for this phase, so we're removing that. The funding amount is staying the same, and the limits are staying the same. So right now it's presented for recommending approval, and then we'll bring it, if it's approved, to policy board next week for final approval.
Any questions for James? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. I have a motion. A second? Second. Any further questions or comments, concerns for James on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 7 is a discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of resolution 2023-02, supporting the 2023 transit asset management performance targets established by Hill Country Transit District. James?
Yes, we brought this to this and the next time back. We're bringing it back for recommending approval. The transit asset management performance targets is 1 of 7, 6 required national performance measures. We are recommending in a resolution to adopt Hill Country Transit's targets, since this is in their transit asset management plan, and the targets are less than 30% in each category, not exceeding their useful life. Daryl, is there anything you want to add?
We've already talked about it, but I would reference you to I think the next page, page 28 in the packet.
It's on the website.
Yeah, so obviously the red dots, that's 30%. Those are still good targets. Obviously, you can look at rolling stock. We've overshot that by 75. It's at 75%. So again, that is due to not having any auctions over the last 3 years. So we have an artificially high spare ratio because of the supply chain issues and all that goes with that. We are having to pull some used parts off of the spare buses to keep our existing fleet running. I went through that before. So prior to the pandemic, I think our rolling stock number was 33%, so we were over, but only by 3%. It is in that ballpark in reality, but this format, the format that FTA requires us to report in the TAMP, we need to report existing numbers. It's just, I hate to say it's a planned overage, but in essence, it really is, because we just do not want to get rid of any buses until we're totally past this supply chain issue. And we've notified TxDOT and FTA that we're doing it that way. So I think we're okay.
All right. Any questions, comments on this item? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move to adopt these targets.
A motion
Second.
in a second. Any further questions or conversation, discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carries. Okay, agenda item 8 is a discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of resolution 2023-03 supporting the 2023 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan performance targets established by Hill Country Transit District. James.
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan performance targets, another one of those 6 federally required performance measures. There are 7 safety performance measures for the PTAC, and that's for 7 for 2 different modes. And that's fatalities, rate of fatalities, number of injuries, rate of injuries, total number of safety events, the rate of safety events, and the mean distance between major mechanical failure. You can see the targets here, and they're also included in the resolution. To recommend approval of resolution 2023-0 supporting these targets.
All right.
Again, this is a federally required program, which we started 2 years ago. It really shifts an emphasis from just tracking numbers to really controlling risk. So we meet on a monthly basis to go over the PTAS numbers, every incident, every accident, et cetera, is reviewed. We determine with a color coding system whether it is acceptable, not acceptable risk. How do we, if it's not acceptable, how do we mitigate it? So we work through all those issues. It's going extremely well. This is a very, very good program. And the actual baseline, those are the same numbers from when we approved it. This is going to be approved. It's going to be presented to our board on March 2nd, and it will be presented yet again on September. So you'll probably see a little shift in these numbers in September, but for right now, these are still valid. And, it's a good program moving forward.
All right. Any
What's an example of a safety event where you did take action? Where you didn't say, okay, accidents happen, but we've done everything that's reasonable. What was one where you did make some, I say, significant change?
Well, we have accidents from time to time. I'm trying to think of it as a specific example of that. We don't have that many accidents, truthfully, but when we do, we have an ARC, which is an accident review committee that we review. We bring the driver in, we bring a couple of witnesses in, we have a committee that we all sit on. We go over the accident, we review the footage from the cameras. Ultimately, though, we're making a determination, was it preventable or was it non-preventable? We just had a non-preventable the other day. Somebody slid into somebody else on a bridge. So that is an example, I guess, that just happened. I wish that wouldn't happen, but there's not a lot we can do about it. So that would be an example that we just accept that risk as part of doing business. But as we determine if it's preventable or non-preventable, anything that is preventable, we discuss it at length. Maybe it's a certain intersection that we've noticed a trend of a lot of accidents, and maybe we will change our route to avoid that particular area. That has happened. Maybe we will recommend additional training for drivers on certain aspects of what they're dealing with. There's just a whole host of things that we address, and we do create mitigations that need to be implemented. We implement them. We put them back on the calendar for a review in a few months afterwards to make sure that they've got implemented, and we monitor it. Has it been effective over the course of time? So
That include, so you still do give kind of offended vendor. Does that also include like slips, trips and falls, passengers getting on and off? Or
yes.
screwing around on the bus? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
the
not.
answer is yes. All of the above.
All the above, the accidents, anything where there's anything that comes in contact with one of the vehicles, where there's a collision of any sort, no matter how minor, no matter if there's damage, we review that, the circumstances of why it happened. The other things you mentioned, slips and falls, and, abuse of passengers, and everything from having a guy with a sword on the bus one day to, just the most minor of things, that all gets reviewed. Those are incidents, and we do review all of those. We had one, here's one that was very significant. We had I don't know what was wrong with the lady, but a lady on the bus who I was just having a mental episode, if you will, and just standing and berating and threatening our driver as they're driving down the road. Normally, we have a panic button on we do have a panic button on all of our buses. That particular button didn't work. So now we had a field supervisor intercept them at the next transfer station, at the next stop, and that lady was removed and arrested and all of those things. But it alerted us to the fact, hey, we need to do a maintenance campaign on these panic buttons. So we did. Those are, we found a few others that were not working as well. So we've got a vendor working on those, fixing all of them right now. It's one of those things we just take for granted it works, but years go by and something happens and we discover, well, some of them, for whatever reason, vibration has caused a wire to come loose or whatever they need. So those have been inserted into the preventative maintenance schedules, and the ones that are not working are being fixed. As
Somebody that changes the batteries in your smoke detector. You just
Things like that.
can go off.
Yeah, believe it or not, those are in the preventative maintenance schedules in facilities. The panic buttons on the buses, for whatever reason, we will.
Yeah.
So it's a good program all the way.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? None, I will entertain a motion.
We approve the safety targets.
A motion. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Agenda item 9 is a discussion item regarding the draft RFP for the 2023 congestion management process, or CMP update, which was something that was mentioned and referenced as a finding in our certification reviews. We're moving forward with trying to get that corrected and brought up to speed with Federal Highways believes it needs to be. James?
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, just like Ryan said, this is something from our FCR. Staff is already planning to look at updating the CMP this year. So I just confirmed and made sure we got this out. A little history, the CMP congestion management process was first developed in 2013. And we made minor updates to the prioritized list of most congested roadway links in 2016, 2018, and 2020. But the plan or the process is in need of a full refresh. This isn't an action item, but a copy of the draft RFP is included in your packet. If any TAC members do have comments or questions or recommendations to what we have written, please let staff know, and we'll take those into consideration.
I do have a question. So
Yeah.
coming up with the plan, will the consultant be using the existing traffic demand model that you have, or is it expected that whoever we bring in with the RFP will pretty much start over with a whole new model, a traffic demand model?
If they need to use a traffic demand model in their scoring, I think that was one of the things in the current plan. There are several different data sources that were used. That was one of them. We have our own model for Killeen-Temple that TxDOT helps us to maintain and update, so we would be able to give them access to that for the purposes of the plan. I think as far as what updating the plan looks like, staff will provide insight, collaborate with the consultant, but really we're looking to see, hey, what there's definitely some parts that are missing, specifically with accounting for completed capacity expansion projects. That's not currently considered in the plan. So that's something we need to add. But other than that, we're looking for the consultant to kind of provide their expertise and what we're just seeing, and then we'll work with them to update it. Does that answer your question?
Any other questions for James on this? And typically we wouldn't bring RFPs to the TAC or policy board. We thought it's probably a good idea to start doing that, not as an action item, but just so you're aware, in case somebody, in your jurisdiction were to ask you, what's this RFP about? What's Killeen-Temple doing? So these are really for awareness, but if you do see anything or can recommend any changes, please feel free to reach out to staff and let us know. Agenda item 10 is a discussion item regarding TxDOT updates on major construction and project development in the Killeen-Temple area.
We have Stephen Casper here. Updates. Let's click through. Anita, if you could switch to Stephen's PowerPoint.
All right, so I apologize, I didn't get a lot of pictures from last week's weather and this week's weather, so it's either gonna be a lot of ice or a lot of rain last couple days. So pictures are all a lot of pictures next time to show updates to the actual projects themselves. But so I'll go ahead and talk about safety since I know that's the first slide. I know we had a lot of icy weather, but we also had an incident in one of our work zones where we had a couple workers struck by a distracted driver. Something in our office, we actually had a safety meeting that same day, and we were discussing something that's known as channel fatigue. And that's whenever people are coming in, from out at sea, or you start thinking about everything but it's on the boat. So there's a lot of incidents that actually occur in the channel, not out at sea. People on boats are actually thinking about being home with their family, and it goes all the way back to, back in 1800s, something that's considered being a lot of superstitions around it too, from what I'm reading about. But we discussed that with our employees that, our channel fever is really, whenever we start looking at the end of the work zone, we're starting to pick up our barricades, we stop thinking about the actual work, because we dealt with the work, going back to think about what's going on next. In this case, I don't think it was anything that the employees of the contractor did incorrectly. I think it was just absolutely distracted driving. But if you remind our employees that it's absolutely critical that when you are in a work zone, don't get complacent. You need to keep your on a swivel and make sure you're paying attention to everything, because they're going to set up and take down those traffic controls. That's probably where you're most vulnerable to the public. Both those employees are, one of them had major injuries, other one had minor injuries. Both of them did survive. It was a pretty significant incident. That company was pretty broke up about, what happened. So just whenever you're out driving, make sure y'all share with your families, loved ones, coworkers. Pay attention to what's going on around you. Pay attention, especially in work zones, because there's people's loved ones that are actually out there in traffic. And just check about your phones. So the first project, this may not be the most updated. I'll go ahead and talk about all this stuff. So State Loop 121, the widening project is still on time, on budget. Right now, they are moving along with their scheduled traffic switch sometime early to mid-fall, to switch over to the northbound lanes and then start construction on the southbound lanes. The contractor's been moving along. We've had some issues in time with that, and it's slowed it down. We're going to be installing some temporary pet signals at Belton High School and at Sparta Lane and Lake Road. So police officers have been manning those intersections until we can get this change work done. I know it's been a long time. We've been talking about it all the way to September, but there's a lot more that goes into those tent pet signals, especially when they're not included in the original contract. But we did think that was a good call by the school district requesting some additional traffic control and safety precautions as far as the pedestrians and students that are around there. So those will be going in. We got the change order done. They're supposed to be delivering those pet signals this week. And they'll be installing to get those up and operational, hopefully by the end of the month. Here it is. Apache Drive, City of Temple sidewalk project. We started time January 20th. Estimated completion date is May 5th. We've got time used about 4.5%, and money spent is 14%, so they're moving along at a pretty good pace. We don't see any issues that they've been. It's a little bit slower process because of all the utilities that are there. There's a lot of drainage. So something that we're asking, we're going to be asking our designers to look into, especially when we're doing local projects on off-system textile roadways on local city streets, is that we start looking into some of the irrigation systems and utilities to make sure that we're identifying all those prior to construction, because it just costs a lot more to have those moved and addressed during construction, because usually it's forced kind of working. It's something that can drive the project cost up. So I know that's an issue that's been discussed multiple times in these meetings about escalated prices. We want to try to address those during design so that we're not having to address them during construction. They're excavating for sidewalk replacements on sidewalk and highways now. I know on this street, there's a lot of residential driveways. The contractor has been working alongside our inspector out there to discuss with the property owners, and that driveway closed for construction on concrete report. And they're working around the schedule pretty well. I think we've had a level of plans, but nothing major, just unexpected. State Spur 290 in the City of Temple, that project is actually substantially complete. The only thing we have is to place a little bit of solid. We've actually got the punch list out there now, so we're going to talk to you all about if you want to do a punch list out there for the city. We'll be ready for that, and we can address that with the contractor pretty quickly. They're ready to get out there, but they finished way ahead of schedule, which is nice. So that project is just about done. I-14, Nolanville Lining Project. That project is also substantially complete. Contract we're working on our punch list now. They have very minor work, and it'll be very isolated, sporadic lane closures just to get some of the punch list items done. but from Nolanville Hill down to Park Heights, it is. I-14 Belton widening project, Nolanville Hill back to I-35. They have just 2 more sets of ramps that they need to put paving on and open back up, along with a little bit of reconstruction and work underneath Connell. Once that work's complete and we get warmer weather, they'll be ready to go back with the fire lift hot mix, the SMA surface mixture, and they'll be restriping. We expect this project to be completed probably by the end of March, as long as we get temperatures and weather to cooperate. So that project has actually proceeded very well, and I think it's been minimal disruption to the surrounding community. And James Construction has done a very good job of working with us and trying to, during the course of the project, they actually reschedule or rework their timeline and ramp reversals. They actually sped the project up quite a bit, because the plans originally, we had one ramp or one set of ramps at a time. They were able to work with us and get multiple ramps closed, and really push that timeline up considerably, which can allow them to finish ahead of schedule. US 190 Rogers Bypass project. That project, this is no different than the last update, but the traffic switches are expected still this spring. And after that, you're going to start seeing a lot of progress out there around the community of Rogers. They've got a lot of earthwork that's going down in Milam County. We'll be switching, traffic around that detour pavement pretty soon as well. And it's going to change that traffic pattern just a bit. Let me give information from our public information officer to let the public know about it. The FM 2115 project out towards Shortner and Salado, that project, the weather has just not been cooperating with us, so it's been slower than what we anticipated. The contractor is still making progress, albeit slowly. Before, I think we thought we were going to be done with it this month, and we projected it out probably the end of March. But the weather is extremely dependent on that type of rehab work. So the paving and everything else that comes with this wet weather and cold weather, it's just not conducive to that rehab work. So the contractor is not moving off or anything like that. They continue to work as much as possible. It's just much slower than what we're used to. And the only other project to know that I didn't discuss on here, I didn't have the presentation, the W.S. Young signal project. We have the reconstruction will be set up next week. Well, it's next week unless it got pushed because of the weather, but that was set up and the contractor ready to go with that one. So by the next update meeting, I'll have more information about when that will actually start production. Projected. Anybody have any questions?
I think on the Apache Drive project, I've talked with one of the property owners that you maybe have issues with. He doesn't seem inclined to find a solution on his own. I'll leave it at that.
So I mean,
The camper and the boat, he's a little bit further down. That's the next thing.
right.
Yeah, it's coming soon.
Yeah, we're going to have to work around that. Busy thing with y'all discuss.
Yeah. So we need to escalate.
Right.
That's
And the thing is, we have that constructed, so there's not a lot of work around.
yeah, we can visit on.
Any other questions? Comments? All right.
Thank you. Agenda item 11 is a discussion item regarding public input received through January 2023.
Yeah, the spreadsheet is included in the packet. There have been a few comments since the last meeting. One I'll mention, right after the last month's TAC meeting, I got a phone call from a lady who lives in Salado, and she was concerned about speeding along Blackberry Road. the safety concern. And then there was a comment on the 18th. Someone sent an email about the hop schedule. I think I forwarded that to you, Daryl, but they were wanting the hop to run more than it does. That's it. Yes, yes.
Any questions or comments on the public input? Seeing none, we will move to agenda item 12, which is member comments. Any members have comments? Nothing. Well, agenda item 13 is to adjourn, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. At 10:10.